All right, welcome back. So today we're going to be looking at a recent commercial filmmaking project my buddy Vinny and I did for Think Tank Photo.
Hey, I'm Vinny.
Obviously, this isn't sponsored by them. Specifically though, from pitching them the concept and pre-production, shooting and execution, production, all the way through editing and post-production. And the scale of this commercial filmmaking project isn't anything crazy, as we were able to do this as essentially a crew of 2 on a small but modest budget. But before I jump into the BTS and how we created this, here it is. Every single shot has a story behind it, a journey. And that journey is often more interesting than the shot itself. The research, preparation, time, patience, effort, and especially the right equipment. That's what makes capturing a great moment possible. Everyone sees the final shot, but what goes into getting the shot, that's the story. Venture, observe, connect. So let's break down how this came together.
So Chris and I met multiple times to talk about how to execute this shoot and figure out the best ways to work with Think Tank as a brand. We ended up deciding that I would be shooting most of the A-roll, while Chris would supplement that A-roll with his B-roll from birding, hiking, all of those really great nature shots he has, and he would also be talent and edit the piece in post-production. And with working with Think Tank, we wanted to make sure we offered something between brand growth and brand depth. Brand growth being like trendy, short form content that would be on TikTok and Instagram, which is why this was a 30-second piece. And brand depth being the trust and the feel a customer gets from the brand and them wanting to come back. And that's why we made this more artistically inclined. It's not very much a short, trendy TikTok that's gonna blow up, but it is gonna show viewers what they wanna see out of this bag. An environment where you would naturally find this bag, so someone who might be thinking about purchasing it will look at this bag and say, hey, this looks really cool, I like what they did, I like where I'm seeing the bag, let's buy it. And our whole goal with this piece was to build a foundation of trust with Think Tank, and between Chris and I, and see how we work as a duo. And we've worked together plenty of times, but this was our first time creating something for a brand that hadn't come to us to hire us as individual DPs or cam ops. And we reached out to them because we love their products and we wanted to see how we could build a relationship between Think Tank and ourselves.
Ideas are a dime a dozen. Companies and brands get pitched ideas all the time. Telling them your idea is fine, I suppose, but cliche incoming, show, don't tell. Because creating a treatment, a pitch deck, takes time.
An hour? Hour 45? No problem.
So not only does it visually show them your idea, but it shows them you care and you are taking it seriously. It shows you're willing to put effort and time and work in before doing the actual work. Then within that treatment, be flexible. Not only with your vision and execution, since they're paying you and you would be working for them, but also with the budget. So what we did in this treatment was offer 4 different tiers, all at increasing price points for the production. I'll show them here on the screen without going too deep into each, but from a 50,000 foot view, the lowest tier is a 30-second commercial plus a vertical reel. We own the raw footage and they can use the Premiere project files for any Chiron and graphics they want. The next tier is similar, but includes multicam interviews, a slightly longer form or branded content short doc style final piece, plus the aforementioned 30-second piece pulled from that, a BTS making of video for their YouTube channel, and some product photography in the field. The next tier is similar, but essentially it requires a higher budget to research, travel, and secure talent, or a compelling character, a master of their craft, for a documentary, for a story. This is where we would lean on our respective networks and all the incredible people we know to really find a great character with a story.
Characters. One man did all those characters.
You're semi-professional.
With an even more polished making of BTS film from the mini documentary highlighting their, meaning Think Tank's, products. Then all the same deliverables already mentioned in tiers 1 and 2. The last tier would be retainer work, which is the goal, right? But I think that comes with trust, with an ongoing relationship, and really delivering on the initial handful of projects. So yeah, show, don't tell. Take the time to put a treatment together, even for smaller brands and smaller budgets. Learn how to create a pitch deck and present it on a Zoom meeting. By the way, I use treatment and pitch deck interchangeably. But yeah, it shows you care a lot. It shows initiative. And the final product usually never turns out exactly as you envision it in the treatment. But with the treatment as a roadmap, the departures from it usually ensure that you're still executing on that vision. Freedom within structure, as it were.
Production was relatively simple, but the hardest part about the production was that I'm based in LA and Chris is based in Philly. I'm from Philadelphia, so in order to make production as easy as possible, we waited till a convenient time where I was back in Philly and we could get together and shoot this piece. And not only was it better for production, but it also was better budget-wise for us.
In order to coordinate our shoot and make it as cost-effective for our budget and efficient as possible, we needed something accessible, free, and local. Luckily, I live 5 minutes from a gorgeous 2,600-acre state park.
Hey, and another thing, how do you know where I live?
And in our little southeastern Pennsylvania neck of the woods, autumns here, specifically the colors, are the best. That's really the entire northeastern corridor. I do a trip to Vermont every October as well, just for the hiking and forest colors. I mean, I've been to some incredible places in the world, but I'll put an interior forest in the northeastern US in October, right up there with the best of them. Obviously, for a project like this, we're also utilizing natural light. And what was nice with shooting this at the end of October was twofold. First, the canopy and leaf cover of this forest is still intact enough to mitigate any overhead, direct, harsh sunlight. And secondly, the angle of the sun by the end of October never really reaches directly overhead. So we were able to shoot from about 45 minutes after sunrise until almost noon without any issues. Going back to our roadmap for this shoot in the treatment, and yes, we obviously did make a shot list, but what worked well for this shoot was I had the sections of the trail and creek and forest kind of picked out where I had been a million times before, trail running, filming wildlife, birding, you name it.
I'm dogging it, Pat. I'm dogging it.
But we were also able to depart from that and kind of freestyle if we saw something we liked. Hold tightly, let go loosely. Again, freedom and flexibility within that plan, that structure. So for example, this shot, which I think is my favorite shot of the whole piece. Nice work, Vinny. I had this in the shot list. I knew I wanted to get this, but originally I had the idea to be lying down on a rocky little beach and have that depth, the perspective of the creek and woods opening up and balancing that frame with me kind of smaller in it. But as we were standing on the rocks, we literally saw the stump and fallen tree, so it was just a simple, hey, what if I go out there for this shot? Add in the stillness of this section of the creek, that clean reflection, and there you go. Another shot I wanted to mention that I knew I wanted to get was a creek walking shot. So I grew up creek walking. It's really just a throwback, just a tap into some nostalgia, just to break away from all the shots of me walking through the woods. Doing the work.
Let's get after it. That's pretty good.
Standing in the creek reviewing footage.
Let's go, baby. That looks great.
So I'm happy with the way this little creek walking sequence turned out. And again, always good to mainline some nostalgia.
I just want to say this water was very cold and I was in there with my bare feet, but the shots came out really good, so I can't complain.
Side note, I guess it's time to mention the gear we used for this shoot. Our shots in the field of me wearing the pack. They were all filmed on 2 FX3s and we only used 3 lenses. Sony G Master version 2s, the 24-70 and 70-200, and an old Sirui 50mm f1.8 1.33x anamorphic.
Everybody getting this so far?
They actually got from Josh Yo, shout out Make Art Now. I think that was like an $800 or $900 lens when it came out, and you can get it now for like $200 to $300. Still though, it gave us some variety, and I thought it would add some zest having a couple shots with some flares coming from the rising sun through the forest canopy. On that note, we filter stacked with a Peter McKinnon 2 to 5 stop variable ND and a Tiffin 1/8 Black Pro Mist.
I'm on Burgundy?
And all of the wildlife footage I had previously filmed primarily on an A7 IV with a Sigma 150 to 600. More on that later.
Post-production, I don't have too much to edit myself. Obviously, Chris handled all of the editing and he crushed it.
Thanks, man.
It's really nice to have shot something you're proud of and then be able to hand it off to someone you trust, someone you know will crush the edit, as well as crush the edit enough to where the brand will like it themselves.
So there's not a ton to artistically break down in this edit. Of course, you get done a project and deliver it and go back thinking about all the little changes and tweaks you could have made. I don't love my voice for the voiceover. I mean, who does, unless your name is David Attenborough or Morgan Freeman.
I guess I just miss my friend.
But they loved the VO, which is all that matters. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, I used a Yeti mini documentary as an inspiration for the opening and ending shots of this piece. I'm okay using inspirations merely as a compass, Because I'm not talking about a shot-for-shot carbon copy, we're talking about inspiration.
We're talking about practice, man.
It's okay to draw on other people's work for some inspiration, and I think drawing on multiple sources means you'll kind of end up with something that doesn't reek of, again, copying others' work, and it's okay to use really high budget, even world-class work as inspiration, just like you would practicing music or writing or any creative endeavor. I like drawing on work that literally makes me so envious of its creativity and execution, I could give up. I'll never be this good, but out of aspiring to be and letting it influence you, letting multiple sources influence you, influence me, you may end up with a style and finished product that uniquely feels like your own. Shit, every great film director does it. Not that I'm comparing myself to them. You get the point though. All right, quick bonus tip. So my last tip is twofold as it relates to the first thing I mentioned with location scouting and finding something accessible. Because as I mentioned, I live 5 minutes from a beautiful state park. I go there all the time to shoot wildlife, not shoot, like shoot with a camera. So I already had a library of wildlife and landscape footage. White-tailed deer, raptors, songbirds, landscapes, drone footage, reservoir at sunrise, you name it. Next, I knew in the approach, in the pitch for this project, like, yes, I'd love to say, we want to film an ice climber in the Canadian Rockies, or something equally as bold, but you have to start small.
What did I tell you fellas about shooting?
Aim small, miss small.
Aim small, miss small.
Basically, it was, what can we show that's interesting in terms of what I, as the character in the video, am filming while wearing the product, the bag, like what requires less time in the field actually shooting, and what can people who would potentially purchase this product relate to? What's relevant and relatable? So regardless of what you think of it, birding is huge, and people that purchase extremely nice camera equipment and subsequent bags and camouflage to go birding would be potential buyers of this product. So this piece, the ad, the branded content, whatever you want to call it, is relevant and relatable to them. Plus, as I mentioned, I already had that library of wildlife footage and bird footage, so that checks box number 2. It costs us nothing and requires no extra time shooting.
Another bonus tip with commercial filmmaking, whenever working with any sort of brand, make sure you're making something that has brand alignment with them. For instance, Think Tank has all these really great bags, but we're not gonna go shoot a piece on someone playing tennis who doesn't use any of their products because that doesn't really make sense for working with this brand. I think this piece does well because it's shot in our style and we like the artistic look of it, but it also shows the bag in an environment where a consumer would find this product. And I think that's also why Think Tank themselves really love the piece and why we're starting to build a sort of foundation with them.
My man.
And since we're building this foundation, it can open up new doors for Chris and I in the future, who knows?
Wrapping this up, as far as commercial filmmaking goes, in this context, I think it's important if you are starting as a small and mobile crew, trying to get your foot in the door to commercial filmmaking or trying to work with brands, to be economical in your approach, to be realistic, to put yourself in the position and mindset of the brand you're trying to work with, and really do a deep dive into their products, their ethos, and their ideal customer, to create a polished treatment. Shit, this treatment took me a full day to make, but that shows I'm willing to invest time into them without the guarantee of paid work. It shows I, or you, care. Also, work light and fast if it's a modest budget, but spend a lot of time in the pre-production process so you can, for sure, over-deliver. Anyways, at the risk of rambling on, like, comment, subscribe. The engagement means a ton in this early phase of my YouTube journey. And stay tuned as this project, without divulging too much, has opened up really interesting doors, this one project, and put a super exciting filmmaking opportunity on the horizon, but I don't want to jinx that. So yeah, proof of concept, it works if you work it. 95% of all projects are pre-production, all the trite cliches, insert your own. I don't know, I gotta bounce.
Secret ending. Secret ending. Thanks for letting me be in the video, Chris. Subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.